Hello, and welcome to another update video about Bitcoin. Yeah, after the last video, we had a bit more of a sell-off. I mean, nothing dramatic, but all within the support area still for the overall fourth wave in which the market still is expected to move within. So yeah, we had two scenarios, discussed them in the previous videos today and over the last few weeks, that this is either a fourth wave, and the idea is that in this fourth wave, yeah, we are not yet finished with that overall correction. It's still expected to go lower because what we had here or labeled here to the downside, that's only the A wave. There should still be a B wave and a C wave ideally, but we talk about a different scenario in a minute due to the sell-off that has become quite likely. So the idea is wave 4 not finished yet, still lower prices expected, but ideally we get a bit of a B wave bounce. Wanted to see the B wave bounce already here, but the price dropped another $400-500. So we'll see if it can find some support. I'm going to zoom in a minute, but just wanted to explain again that in the fourth wave scenario, which is more directly bullish, but even there we expect further downside overall. The correction is not expected to be finished. I explained it yesterday because we have 5 waves down, yeah, in this move that started on the 11th of January, okay, 5 waves down. So it typically would indicate we should get another, yeah, corrective rally, but then another 5 wave move down should follow. Okay, but ideally not breaking below 35K, at least not in the white wave count. Then obviously there's the potential for the yellow count, which might send us down to 27K, maybe even 20K. But again, we cannot confirm that until the price breaks below $35,000. There's no way of confirming that other than, okay, it's my opinion or whatever, but that's not helpful. We need to understand what are the support levels that, if they break, confirm this yellow scenario. I talked about that on the daily time frame earlier today. I will do that again tomorrow. Don't want to dive into this right now, but just a reminder that this deeper pullback scenario exists. I would treat it as a gift. I've said it many times. It all depends on how you have structured yourself and your portfolio actually. You know, do you have some cash available maybe for lower prices? In my opinion, it makes sense, or it's reasonable to buy pullbacks in a bullish market. I would be more careful with altcoins, but Bitcoin I see like gold, like a long-term asset, you know. Altcoins not necessarily, but Bitcoin is. Ether possibly as well. But that's just sort of, okay, side note here. It's just worth to know that we have two scenarios. In both, the expectation is that the fourth wave or that B wave obviously are not finished yet, and we are still in correction mode. However, so now let's zoom in, and what I can tell you is that obviously this has gone down a little lower than it would be ideal. Okay, remember last week we were looking at here this scenario as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's where I wanted to see a bounce. Yep, we've seen a bounce, but not to the degree that would be healthy for a B wave. So I can still see, however, two ways how this fourth wave can hold support and basically the white scenario can survive. In the first scenario, really nothing changes other than we have an extension in the current A wave, which reached that 39,330 level now, which I talked about in the previous video. Talked about that and said, okay, if we get another low, then this is going to be another micro level to watch. Okay, it's holding above that level, but still there's currently no buy reaction, okay? So ideally, you know, if it doesn't form any support there, then I think specifically that idea that this is a 5-wave move down in wave A is getting challenged, seriously getting challenged, okay? So that's something I'm skeptical about. If we get a break below 39,330, would that be bearish? Well, it would at least make things more difficult, because what I want to see on the chart, I want to see a B wave rally that gives me a bit of a landmark on the chart, that allows me to count the microstructure clearly. Yeah, I know that in a wave 4, we typically have an ABC structure. Yeah, I can recognize an A wave. I honestly have difficulties to, without, you know, let's say a healthy B wave, it's always more subjective, okay? it's difficult. It's like when you don't have deep pullbacks in a move to the upside, you know, it's also more subjective. Okay, anyway, at the moment, I don't think the B wave has happened yet, not in the blue count, not in the white count, sorry. And therefore, I'm still watching potentially for a B wave. But if we continue to break below 39,330 as well, then the other scenario that I mentioned, in which I could see the wave 4 play out, is this one. A scenario I mentioned in previous videos already, but that I said I really will only bring it onto the chart once we make another low, and it would be this one. In this scenario, I would have to assume the A wave was indeed a 3-wave move. This here is a B wave, very shallow, and we're now in a C wave, or it could even be a WXY. But the bottom line is the B wave has already happened, yeah. Or if it's a WXY, the X wave has already happened. So in that case, we would go a little lower, yes. But we would, in that case, not really expect another larger bounce in, let's say, a corrective rally. So in this scenario, which is highlighted in blue, if it breaks down more directly, we could get into the lower half of this support area more directly. But to be honest, that will then threaten the white count overall, because we're dropping quite aggressively, quite directly. But bear in mind that the market still has plenty of space in this current wave 4 correction. Can still go down to 35K if it needs to. But obviously the closer we get to 35, the higher the probability that it's going to break. Now, good news is, for all the bulls, looking at the daily time frame, the daily RSI is very, very low. Now, it's not yet oversold. It's not yet oversold. However, it's still overall bullish. Look, the last time we were oversold, that was down here in August last year. Far away from the price. Far away from the price. We are not far off on the RSI, but we are very far off by price. That's very bullish. If the price drops further, maybe to 35K, I would imagine we are oversold. Even if that B wave scenario plays out, that an oversold daily RSI on the daily, honestly, is a great buy signal. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen all the time, but typically, you know, I would say, I did look it up at some point. It's like at 8 or 9 cases of 10, a daily RSI that's oversold on the Bitcoin chart is a buy signal. So I'm looking forward to that if we get that. Even if there is no substantial reversal, we typically get a substantial bounce nevertheless. So yeah, it might drop a little further when we look at the RSI, but that's bullish, yeah. If we can hold a higher low on the RSI, if we can hold a higher low on the price, but go oversold, maybe even form a lower low on the RSI, that's bullish. So that's just something I'm going to observe more as we get into that. That doesn't happen every day, right? I mean, that's something to look forward to for all swing traders. Because even if 35K breaks, there's going to be on our daily time frame, there's a support area just underneath for the B wave pullback. And if the daily RSI is oversold, that's usually an attractive buy signal. Yeah, that's what I can share at the moment. I think the upside resistance, I mean, that has shifted a little bit, but we haven't even seen the start of a bounce. The last opportunity it had, Bitcoin, wasn't used by the bulls. So we still see a little bit further downside. But yeah, still, I think Bitcoin should bottom in this region locally. I mean, last attempt failed, but maybe it can do it here somewhere. And I hopefully still, though, prepared you for the blue count, which allows for a much more direct move down, but it could still hold the 35K level in that region, because even in the blue count, which is a more direct pathway to the downside, target for the C wave, okay, we measure that by taking the length of wave A and compare it with the length of the C wave. It would take us to 37K. That's one of the levels. It's for the blue scenario. I will keep that on the chart just to highlight which one is a relevant additional level. Yeah, that's my update about Bitcoin. Hope you liked the update. If you did, please hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. And if you really like the content, then please check out the channel membership. Also, make sure that you follow us on Instagram and Twitter for additional content. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.